Hey Life Group leaders, Pastor Kyle here. We had a fantastic Sunday as we looked at the example of Jesus and we contemplated the reality of His call to us to follow His example in humility. And I wanted to give some practical ways that we work that out as a Christian community. C.J. Mahaney wrote a great little book, great read on humility. And in the back he has a bunch of different ways of cultivating humility. I want to share them with you, get you thinking about them, practicing them, discussing them with your groups. The first is he talks about at the beginning of your day, acknowledging your dependence on God through prayer, and then expressing your gratitude to God for all of the myriad of blessings that He has given us. He talks about seizing your commute as a time to memorize or meditate on Scripture, as a way of renewing your mind and growing in humility as you contemplate who God is. He talks about at the end of each day, taking some time to thank God for the things that happened that day, to recognize the blessings, to cultivate a spirit, a habit of thankfulness in your life. And this can be done with your spouse in your marriage. This can be done with kiddos and your family over dinner. Very practical ways of cultivating humility. And then he gives some suggestions on areas that you can study. He talks about studying the attributes of God as there's a great quote, and I'm forgetting who said it, but basically as we stand next to God, we become more humble because we recognize who He is and who we are. So he encourages you to study the attributes of God, study the doctrines of grace. While we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. Study the doctrine of sin. And then one of his encouragements is to laugh often, and laugh often at yourself. The surest way to crucify pride in your life is to be able to laugh at yourself. Then he gives a few other suggestions. He says to identify evidences of grace in others, seeing how God is moving, blessing, growing, transforming, and changing other people will bring great joy to your heart. It will humble you, and it will produce a thankfulness. Encouraging and serving each other every day. One of the finest ways, in fact, someone, I forget again the quote, somebody wrote and went as far as to say humility is service. The surest way of cultivating a humble attitude and a humble demeanor and a humble lifestyle is simply to serve others. He has a few more in here. He encourages us to invite and pursue correction. So to grow in humility, we have to have a teachable heart. And the surest way you know whether or not you have a teachable heart is whether you allow people in your life to be able to speak into your life. And this is really important. I've often encountered people that say like, oh, well, if you were really my friend, you would just affirm me and celebrate everything I'm doing. Proverbs talks about the wounds of a friend are to be desired over the kisses of an enemy. A true friend will be able to speak into your life. And if we want to cultivate humility, we allow them the opportunity to do that. And then the final way is to respond humbly to trials. One of the great opportunities that we all face and have faced in our lives, and it is a proof positive of whether we're growing in humility or not, is when things don't go our way. One preacher I heard said it this way: the surest way to know if there's pride in your heart is when you meet someone that does what you do like you do it, only better. And if you respond in frustration and jealousy, there's pride still residing in your heart. So the surest way to know that we're growing in humility is how do we respond to challenges and trials? Do we see them as sanctifying, as correcting, as helpful? Or do we see them as inconveniences, as things that are just put in the way of what we really want to achieve? Because what God is doing in 1 Thessalonians, the will of God is your sanctification. Everything that happens to you, successes, failures, setbacks, and challenges, it's growing your character so that you can be refined and more Christ-like. That's what God is trying to achieve. And so we know we're growing in humility when we face the uncertainty, when we face the difficulty, and we say, God, what are you trying to teach me? What can I learn? How can I be more humble? How can I come under your lordship in the midst of this difficulty. So guys, hope those are some practical, helpful ways that you can be growing in humility. Also want to let you know as well that both over at Philida and Heritage Park, we just want to continue to encourage the life group leaders that if there's room in your group, be sure to hang out at the life group tables, interact with people, invite them into your group. And thank you guys for your willingness to open your lives and your homes. I'm already hearing stories about how new folks are getting plugged in, how they're building friendships and being really encouraged. So thank you. What you do has a profound impact on the mission of God here in Clark County. So as always, we love you guys. We'll see you next Sunday.